In this video, I'm continuing with the basic setup of GigoShop shopping cart plugin. Okay, and we've done our shop options, the overall shop options. Now I'm going to go through each of these tabs very quickly just to get us the basics to get us started, and then we'll go into some detail for particular issues. All right, on our general tab here, this email address, this is where things are going to get sent. So when there's notifications that a new order's come in, that sort of thing, that's where it's going to go. This is also the return address. When a client or a customer receives an email saying their order's confirmed, this is the return address here. And it can be different, by the way, from the one that you display publicly in your email, the one that I set back here. These two can be different, of course. Now, the next thing we want to do is decide what's going to happen after a customer clicks and adds something to their cart, okay? Now, with GigoShop, staying on the same page actually can work out fairly well. Let me just briefly show you what happens. I'm going to go and add an item to the cart here. Hang on one second here. Let's get back to our home page. And let's say I add this to my cart. Watch what happens. It tells you the product was successfully added. Okay, so there's confirmation. That's really what customers want. You can also click immediately to view the cart if you want. Okay, and there's actually another way up here, depending on your theme that you've got, it will actually have a mini cart up here that again says there's one item in it, so you were successful. So from that standpoint, I don't mind leaving this stay on the same page. Sometimes, though, you may want to automatically redirect them either to the cart or to the checkout. And to the checkout almost functions like a buy now button in a way, right? I'm just going to add this to the cart and immediately I'm done. So it depends on what you're selling and how you're selling and so on. All right, there's some other ones here that we're not going to worry about and we'll come back to, like these ones to do with your styling. We'll come back to that when we're setting up the theme itself. On the checkout page, allow guest purchases. Now all three of these are by default. I would leave allow guest purchases on. Some people don't like to become a customer. They want the choice to just fill in their information for that order and that's it, okay? But if you want to force people to actually become a customer, their information stays on file, not their credit card information, but their shipping address, all of that sort of thing, that stays on file. Anyway, allow guests, we'll just leave that for now. And if you are going to have secure browser lock on this SSL, you can force having that on the checkout, but of course you've got to have a certificate for your hosting, an SSL certificate. I prefer to leave this off, and the actual checking out where the credit card and everything gets applied, that actually happens on PayPal or a third party. If you're using PayPal, don't forget not all of these have PayPal as their payment processor, right? So for example, if you're paying by check, you wouldn't need secure serving like this unless perhaps people are concerned that their information, even just their address, is being picked off. Sometimes people like that security as well. So if you want that, you have to have an SSL certificate and then you would turn this on. Okay. And just briefly here, there's a bit of integration you can do. Share this, take a quick peek. Share this is a service that provides social media links for you. Here's an example of what it looks like if you have this turned on. Within your product, you'll get a bar like this that has your social media share icons, okay? That's what they're talking about here when they're saying put in your publisher ID. If you do that, then they automatically show up, and that can be very handy. It also saves having to code or specially design any other kind of sharing system in there. Then there's Google Analytics, of course. Now, you may be taking care of this separately in WordPress with a Google Analytics plugin, but one of the things you do want to have, even if you don't have to put in your Google Analytics UA code right here, and it shows you what the UA code looks like, you would find that in your Google Analytics account. Even if you don't have to put it in here, you do have to enable this because that's what turns on the e-commerce tracking within Google Analytics. And there's a little explanation here where it says it tracks the code when you've had a successful order. And the importance there is you want to sometimes be able to track in Google Analytics that a person entered the site, added to the cart, followed through, and actually placed an order. That's very important to know for your return on investment issues. Okay, so those are some basics there. Again, any changes you make, remember to save general changes. Now we're going to go to pages here. Again, we'll go very briefly through some key things. This is where you can tell JigoShop to use a particular page. Now remember, I showed you before that JigoShop by default creates some pages for you. Cart, checkout, checkout pay, thank you, all of these. All right, now by default, that's where they're going to go. But let's say, for example, you already had a thank you page created. You could choose it down here and select it, okay? But by default, these are all set up and you don't have to worry about them. The only other one here is a terms page. If you want to force customers to read a terms page, if you select something here, notice by default there's nothing. If you choose a page here, and obviously you'd create one with your terms on it, then JigoShop will automatically demand that the person check off and say, I accept your terms. If they don't do that, they can't check out. Again, that's kind of a handy thing to do. Notice here, save pages. Again, if there's any changes, we didn't happen to do any this time. Catalog and pricing very quickly. Again, where's your main catalog located? You could choose any page, but they've already set up one for you called Shop. Could have a separate redirection page if you wanted. How are you going to automatically sort products in the catalog? You can do that here. The sort direction, is it most recent or is it by title, ascending, descending? All of those get to be determined right here. How many do you show per row? They have a nice little sliding scale here. And we're just going to keep it at 3 for now. Default is 12 per page. That's fine. Now our currency display, how do we want to show it? And of course, this is the North American setup here, so I'm going to keep that. The thousand separator, again, that's North American standard. Decimal separator, number of decimals. Any changes, save those. Images, we won't worry about those right now. You can actually change the sizing of images. Products and inventory. Right now, let's not worry about any of these. We're going to manage stock, but if you didn't want to manage stock, you just undo it there, okay? And you won't get any stock thresholds and levels and all of that. A lot of times you don't need to keep track of that. Taxes we'll leave, that's a separate issue entirely, but right now it's saying it will calculate tax, although there's no tax rules set up. Shipping, again, we've got it turned on. Unless you're selling entirely downloadable items, you're going to have some shipping of some sort, so leave that enabled. And payment gateways, by default, they have check payment turned on and PayPal standard, and we'll just leave those for now. Again, we'll deal with those in a separate video, but right now, we're ready to go, and we're going to start adding our first product to JigoShop shopping cart.